Discussing what is an American is an uncomfortable subject for many. In fact, it's controversial. Have you ever been asked, "What are you?" or "Where are you from?" These are common questions you'll be asked if you live here in the New York City metropolitan area. And this is because literally people from all over the world live here. So usually the responses to these questions will be a myriad of ethnicities and nationalities. However, when I reply to these questions, I say that I am an ethnic American. The term ethnic American is one I developed after nearly 2 decades of genealogical research. It refers to those who can trace their ancestry to the 13 colonies. And today, I want to share with you a short story about how I learned not to describe myself with a color or with a hyphen. Growing up here in the New York City metropolitan area, I didn't quite know where I fit in culturally. The majority of my ancestors were from the United States, but I didn't quite feel American. Now, I feel this is because the media and textbooks, the way they frame American history is those of us who are descended from American slaves, we're treated as if we're nothing. We are just a color. We have no ethnic or geographic identity. That's why the term African American was coined. It was coined to alleviate this situation. However, in my opinion, this term separates the role slavery has and continues to have in the American experience. So how did I come to all these conclusions? It all began several years ago when my mother and I were watching a Dr. Henry Louis Gates documentary. He's a very famous American historian. In this documentary series, he was helping celebrities like Oprah and Chris Rock uncover their ancestry in West Africa. Inspired by this, my mother and I decided we wanted to do the same. So I researched the company and we ordered a kit. We submitted the sample, and a couple of weeks later, we found out that our ancestry went back to Britain. Shocked, confused, and angry, we came up with every explanation of how these results could be wrong. Now, this is despite the fact that we are quite well versed in how DNA works. We watch Maury every day. And we are big fans of forensic crime shows. But that didn't seem to matter at the time. We were like, you know what, let's do this again. So I researched another company. We submitted another sample, and a couple of weeks later, the results came back. Britain again. This time we called customer service. And I would like to go on the record to apologize to the poor woman who was on the other line, because we were really angry. But eventually, we got over it. Now, during this time, I was working in a high school library, and one day, while shelving books, I came upon one on indentured servitude. And so I began to flip through the book, and as I'm reading the book, I'm realizing everything I knew about American history was wrong. There was far more integration of peoples in the colonial period than we are taught. Currently, American history is taught from 3 segregated perspectives: indigenous, slave, and white. There is rarely ever an attempt to show how all of these people being forced together eventually led to the United States. So, my ancestry began in colonial Virginia. Now, in the 17th and well into the 18th century, people there were having babies with whomever. Indigenous, West African peoples, people from England and anywhere else that landed in the colony were having children. It wasn't until the end of the 17th century that we start to see laws in the colonies that prohibit this intermixing. And from learning about my ancestry, I discovered what ethnicity is. Ethnicity is when people, either by force or by choice, live within a political boundary. And over time, these people develop things like languages, accents, dialects, traditions, and yes, even prejudices. My ancestry woke me up. I realized how much I really didn't know. And I also realized how much I had in common with all of human history. What happened here and what made the United States was far from unique. In fact, if you study history, time and time again, you will see the same constant pattern of conquering, colonization, and even business interactions leading to new cultures. I now understand why things are the way they are, not just in the United States, but in every country that was a former colony of a Western European imperial power. By learning my ancestry, I face racism with a whole new set of tools that most people I know didn't even know they could ever use. So the next time you hear someone referred to as an African American, please remember that they are simply an ethnic American. Thank you.